And I want to see, okay, so this is an outies. All right, so I'm going to open up his and I'm going to download it. Okay, so let me download an outies and let me go over here. And now let me do file open. All right. So the one thing about an outies that needs to be fixed is, let's look at this yellow place here, okay? Now we know the vanishing point is here, okay? So we do edit, transform, distort, and we have to make sure that the top of the building is angled to the vanishing point and that the bottom of the building is also angled to the vanishing point. So now this goes to the vanishing point and this goes to the vanishing point. So now it's correct, but now let's focus on this door. The bottom of the door goes to the vanishing point, but the top does not. So let's zoom out a little so we can sort of see what's going on. And now let's do edit, transform, distort. And now we have to make sure that this door is also in perspective. So that means it's got to angle down to the vanishing point. That wasn't a big change, but it was sort of important, okay? Because otherwise it doesn't look like the door is on the same plane as the side of the building, okay? Now I'm also looking here and it looks like this line is not vertical. So I need to test it. I grab this and it looks like the line is a little off. So again, edit, transform, distort. I'm going to pull this out a little so that it looks more vertical. Okay. And now it's going straight up and down. All right. So now, at this point, the door is big enough for the guy to get into because it's higher than the horizon line. And so he should be able to get in here okay. Okay, so now all the perspective is correct, but let me check out if this part of the building is also a little off, and it looks like it is. You see how I keep checking and rechecking? I don't just say, okay, good enough. I say, well, let me check. All right, so let me fix that. And now it looks like it's vertical. And there we go. Okay, now, when I'm done with that, let me look at the road here. So I got this road. Now I'm going to take these shapes and I'm actually going to combine them. And it's okay to do that because they are the same color. If I tried to do that and they were different colors, they would all become the same color and it would mess everything up. But because they're the same color as each other, I can put them in the same layer and then I can do edit, transform, perspective, and I can actually do this. So I can make it look like it's going away in space a little. Okay, you see how I'm doing that? It gets bigger as it gets towards you and smaller as it gets farther away. All right, so it's just a subtle difference. But it helps it to look more 3D. Okay? And then you can do edit, transform, scale, and you can squish it a little to make it skinnier. And you can also bring it down to make it more visible. Okay, so now look. See how that looks kind of more 3D than it did before? So that was combining them and edit, transform, perspective. All right, so now I'm going to now show you the 3 different ways to make shadows. All right, I'm going to start with making a shadow on this first guy. Okay, and the way that I'm going to do that, there's a trick, is layer. Now, everybody watch. This is super important. Duplicate layer, and I'm going to go to the one underneath. Okay, and I'm going to do edit, transform, distort, and I'm going to make it look, I'm going to just take my rectangular marquee, and I just want the guy. Okay, so edit, transform, distort, and I'm going to squish him. And I'm going to change his angle. Hang on. There we go. So that it looks like he's laying down. And then I have to kind of match his feet to the feet of this guy because it's going to be a shadow. So I got to kind of match the feet. Okay. And he's a little big. I'll make him shorter. All right. There we go. So now it looks like he's coming out from the back like a shadow. I'm going to hit the check mark. I'm going to do select, deselect. So now it looks like it could be a shadow, but actually it looks like a flat, like a steamroller came along and flattened this guy. So I got to make this all black, and there's a very easy trick to do that. Layer, layer style, color overlay, and then I have to change the color. So I'll make the color black. Ta-da, there's his shadow. All right. All I did was I duplicated the layer. I distorted it so it looked like it was a shadow, and then I did layer, color, layer style, color overlay, and I picked the color black. Okay. So now it looks like there's a light source to the right that is hitting him. Okay. But he still looks very flat. He doesn't look like he's got light and shadow on him. So I'm going to fix that using 2 tools, the burn tool and the dodge tool. The burn and dodge tool are hidden underneath the blur tool. The burn tool can be adjusted like any other brush. So I can make it fatter. It can also be adjusted like any other brush so that I can make it fuzzier. But right now I'm going to keep it as a hard brush, and I'm going to go over him, and I'm going to make a hard shadow on him. Now the way that the burn tool works is it takes all the pixels that are underneath it and makes them darker. Okay, so I can actually make this nice dramatic shadow on him by carefully picking where I put it darker. If you want an even harsher shadow, you can change the exposure. So this is at 100%. Now, let's say I want a softer shadow. I can change this from hard to fuzzy and get a soft shadow. Right now, I don't want that. Right now, I want a hard shadow. Now, that's the burn tool, which looks kind of like a hand, and it's hidden underneath the blur tool. But now I'm going to use the dodge tool, which can also be adjusted like any other brush, made fatter, but also made fuzzier. And this time I want it to be a little softer. So I'm going to take my dodge tool, okay, which looks like a lollipop, and I'm going to make a highlight here. The dodge tool takes all the pixels that are under it, and right now it's at 50%. I'm going to change it to make it lighter. It takes all the pixels that are under it, and it makes them lighter. So I can use that to make highlights on him. So The second way that you are making light and shadow is using the burn and dodge tool. The first way was to duplicate the layer, squish it down during the distort tool, and do layer styles color overlay. There is a third way to make light and shadow, and that is, and I'm going to duplicate this guy to show you. Layer, duplicate layer. Now I'm going to take this guy on top, and I'm going to move him. I'm going to move him over here. And I'm going to put him higher than this window. So he's in the front because he's in the foreground. Now he's too small, right? Edit, transform, scale. His eyes have to be on the horizon line. So he's got to be bigger. His eyes have to be on the horizon line, but he's going to have to be a lot bigger because he's in the extreme foreground, right? So let me just make him bigger. Now he's in the extreme foreground. He's standing in front of this building. And because he is in front of a building, I can do something else with him. First of all, let me get these out of the way. They're annoying me. Okay. So because he's in front of a building, there's a special technique I can use for him. And that is called layer style, drop shadow. And he can get a drop shadow on him. So first off, I can make the drop shadow look like it's farther away. Like if he's standing way in front of the building, his drop shadow might be further away. Okay, second of all, I can change the angle. Okay. And I can change the size of the drop shadow. And I can adjust other things as well. So now I'm going to hit OK. And the nice thing about drop shadows is they move when your guy moves. So if I move him here, or I do edit, transform, scale, and I make him bigger, his drop shadow will change with him. And that can be really good because I don't have to redo the shadow every time. All right. So you now learned the 3 different techniques for making shadows. You've learned how to use burn and dodge. You've learned how to distort his shadow and do layer styles, color overlay. And you've learned how to do layer styles, drop shadow. So now I'm going to ask you an open-ended question. If I'm over here with this guy, what technique is the best one to use? If I'm on this guy, how do I make, what type of shadow do I make of him? What do I do? Which technique do I use?
So you duplicate his layer.
Okay, I'm going to follow your directions. Layer, duplicate layer. Now I go to the one underneath, and what do I do to it?
Then you distort it.
I have to distort it. Okay, edit, transform, distort. Hang on. Okay, and what do I do next?
Then you have to turn it black.
Layer style, color overlay. Okay, now that's the first technique. What other technique do I need to use to make him have a shadow? I can't use drop shadow because there's no wall in back of him. So I have to use another technique. What do I do?
I forgot the name, but like that's the one on the left that you like.
Okay, so it's usually hidden under the blur tool. And which one? Do you remember which one makes it? Here they are. Which one makes it darker? Do you remember?
Not really.
Okay, if you look, what thing, if I look at all these words, what word looks like it would make something darker?
The blur tool.
The burn tool, because it like you're burning something, you're making it darker, right? Okay, so now I've got my burn tool, and now because I'm on the wrong layer, here we go, there we go. Okay, all right, here's my burn tool. There, 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 and one of the things about the burn tool is it can be adjusted like any other brush. I can make it harder, I can make it softer, I can make it smaller, like if it's too big. Okay? So now, the other one, the opposite one is, it looks like a lollipop, and it's called the dodge tool. And it'll make him look lighter. Okay? So now, look at him now. Look at my picture. And now, let me do File, Open, and let's look at how your picture looked before. Okay, let's compare, because you guys go in a second. That's how it looked before. So do you see how you can take your artwork to the next level just by fixing the perspective, but also adding light and shadow? Do you see the difference? Okay.
So I'm like, how do I know which type of shadow? Like,
okay, so if it's in front of a wall, you would do layer style drop shadow. If it's not in front of a wall and it's out in the open, you would duplicate the layer, edit, transform, distort, and then layer style color overlay. And for all three of them, burning and dodging is a good idea. But if you look at these guys look like they're standing on the ground. The guy we haven't fixed yet in the background, he looks almost like he's floating. Now, there's one last thing before you all go. See this, which is the ground? I can take this and I can rasterize it. If I rasterize it, I can also use the burn and dodge tool on this shape. I can't use burn and dodge tool on shape layers unless I rasterize it. But if I do rasterize it, I can take the burn tool and I can actually make shadows. Oh, this is too hard. I want it to be really soft. But I can make shadows right underneath somebody without using that layer styles, thing. I can just make a shadow under it by hand. Okay? So that's another thing you can do. All right? But always keep in mind that you want to have a single light source, and that light source has to be off the paper. And the reason why I say that the light source should not be on the paper is if there was a sun here, the light would be coming from that sun. And if it came from the sun, then that would mean that everyone was backlit. If the sun was here, then the shadows would be going this way, and all the people would just be black shadows, silhouettes. Everything would be backlit. But the sun is over here somewhere off the edge of the paper going towards them, and therefore it wouldn't be in the picture. So always make the light source not in the picture. Having the sun not in the picture is really important when you are learning about light and shadow, because once you put the sun in the picture, that automatically changes the lighting. Do you understand what I mean? Like if the sun's here, then the shadows wouldn't be going this way. They'd be going this way. And the people would be all black, like a silhouette, like a sunset picture. Okay?